Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Game Over Ottawa, a very sad edition here tonight. The Sens are not dead yet, but they are on the verge of elimination after losing 3-2 in overtime to the Toronto Maple Leafs. This might be a bit of a struggle for me to get through the show tonight, but I'm glad to be joined by Conrad Krausert from Game Over Calgary. How are you doing tonight, Conrad?
Hey, at least our team made the playoffs and didn't get ninth in the conference, so
Yeah,
you have that going for you.
That's what I'm going to try to be happy about, is that, like, at least we made it. At least we made it to the dance. But it's it's nothing but sadness right now. I think...
And I'm not to talk over you, sorry, but the Sens have been in the state of the perpetual rebuild for so long. I think giving the fan base this snapshot of we're almost at where we want to be needs to mean a lot for this fan base, because hey, I've been a Calgary Flames fan since the Young Guns era, where it was Jerome McGinley and not much else bringing fans to the Dome, and you guys are just emerging from that generation of sadness in the post-Spezza era. So it post-Alfie Spezza, whatever you want to call that era, and emerging with an owner who's committed to this city. So let's take a breath. I know that today probably seems like the end of the world to a lot of Sens Nation, but it's steps in the right direction.
I think that's what stings the most, is we got such a taste, especially in those last two games, of just being so close. On one hand, I think it's really reassuring that the team got so close in these last two games, and at least because that first game was such a joke, such a blowout, right? So 2 overtime losses. I think after game 2, I was really angry with how the game ended, just specifically because of how the goal was scored, with that kind of soft defensive play that let Max Domi take that shot. Whereas today, I'm just kind of sad with how it ended. Like, I don't have the rage this time. Maybe it will hit me a little bit later tonight, but I'm just sad right now. So
I'm here to be the golden retriever boy of this cast, so hopefully my positive energy can help hold off the I guess it's the Wednesday scary or Thursday scaries. Days of the week have ceased existing.
You are my emotional support co-host tonight, and I thank you for that, because there's a lot to work through with how this series has played out. I guess just like going into the series, I did predict the Leafs to win. I think specifically my prediction was Leafs in 7 games. So particularly, we're not close to that right now, which stings. I think my quote was that my head says Sens in 7, and my heart, or no, my heart says Sens in 7, but my head says Leafs in 7. And I feel like it wasn't the worst prediction ever, just because these 2 games have been so close. You see that the Sens are able to hang with a team like the Leafs, but the Leafs are just a cut above in terms of being able to close out games. They're not they're not known for going deep in the playoffs, but they have been here before. So I think the experience in being in these situations before, they've had plenty of overtime games that they've won and lost before. I think that's ultimately the difference here, eh?
I would say similar. And like, hey, the Flames were there a few years ago when we thought we were in a good place to play against the Oilers. We shut one of the most generational talents down for a game, and then obviously the Oilers gentlemen sweep the Flames a few years back. So I guess it's a kind of an eerie parallel to that series back for the Flames. And as I said, it's this process, right? Like, no matter how much I'll never forgive Daryl Sutter, Jay Feaster, and that management group for how they destroyed this Flames roster, they always said that you needed guys in the room who have been there before. And I love Claude Giroux, but he's maybe the only guy who I can point to that I can say he's run that whole gambit. He's been there. It's your first time for Brady, Stutzla. Like, it's the first time for that generation of stars to really get their feet wet.
Yeah, that's
And
the thing. The players on this team that have the experience are all like the support players. Like Giroux is a top six player, but he's not like part of the young core. And then Perron and Cousins have won cups before. They're in the bottom six, so that's useful to have in the locker room. But like you said, that core of Sanderson, Stützle, Tkachuk, they don't have that experience yet, and at least going forward into the future, this is going to be really good experience of having been here before and being so close and knowing what it's going to take in the future. Like another
and
guy
hey,
too,
the rebuild.
I was gonna say Drake Batherson, another guy too, who had the screw up in overtime in game two. One positive is I think he did really learn from that, and he played really well tonight. Came back and was finishing all his checks all night. So you already see from just one game to another how one player learned from these moments, and going forward, it's going to be huge for the team.
And you're already rebuilding a major reclamation project and saving Dylan Cousins from
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, so he doesn't have the experience. And Fabian Zetterlund coming out of whatever that is down in San Jose. Like, there's a lot of things that, well, are gonna hurt and sting in this series. Because hey, it's not over. There's still 4 games left.
Yeah, I just
Maud,
hope we win one.
you were writing the sentence off about halfway into the third, or about 3 minutes into the third, and I'm like, hey, there's still game to play. And then
I can't believe that the Sens in back-to-back games tied the game in the third period with their first shot of the period with less than 10 minutes to go in the game. That's insane. The fact that that happened and then they couldn't win either of those games, that's real tough because that's some luck, frankly. That actually went their way, but yeah, I don't know, when just the fact that we weren't really generating much until that goal is why I was pretty pessimistic at that point.
but hey, gets you to overtime, and like as you said, it's 2 games that are one bad play and then a lost face-off play and a rolling puck slapped on net that maybe 9 times out of 10 probably flies a mile wide, but this is the 1 in 10 that didn't.
Yeah, I told you this before we went on air, but I turned the TV off as soon as that puck was in the net. Literally before the face-off, I got up and grabbed my TV remote just because I was like, okay, I want to be able to turn the TV off as quickly as possible when the Leafs score, and it was literally right off that face-off instantly. So unfortunately, I won't be able to analyze the overtime winning goal too much because I don't want to look at that again. That will just make me even more sad if I see it happening again. So I don't know if Ullmark was screened. I guess you said it was a rolling puck, just a bit of a fluky one. Just frustrating. I don't want to see that goal ever again.
Yeah, that's fair. And I guess there was a little bit of a screen, kind of players coming out of the face-off dot.
Yeah, there's always movement right off the draw. So
Yeah,
the fact that
but
Benoit
that's
got that shot off so quickly that was a factor.
yeah, but there is a reason the Senators decided to go out and get Linus Ullmark, and that is to make the big saves. And
Oh boy. Yeah. Might as well get into that. And
yeah,
I had the music to start the show, and I also put some sound effects, some soundboards in here, so you won't be able to hear this, Conrad. But
no,
my reaction to Linus Ullmark's playoff performance is this, which is the Price is Right losing horn right there.
yeah,
Just what a flop overall. Like, I feel like most of the goals that have gone in on Linus Ullmark, which it's now 12 goals in 3 games, I think, is it? Yeah.
that math's in my
Six,
head.
3-3. Yeah. So, none of the goals that have gone in have been directly his fault. It was always like good opportunities for the Leafs or like obvious defensive screw ups that led to the chances. But
Oh,
you need those difference making saves, which Stolars has been able to make and Ullmark hasn't. Like that's back to back games where Linus Ullmark, his stats don't look great. Like partway through the game or early on in game two, but then he claws it back to around a 900 save percentage, getting to like 19 shots, 20 shots, and then that 20th shot tonight goes in and makes his stats look terrible. So it's like this was Linus Ullmark's best game in the series so far, but if your best game is 3 goals on 20 shots, that kind of explains why you're down 3-0, right?
Yeah, and if his glove had only been about an inch longer on that Matthew Nyes
Yeah.
bouncing off
Oh
of
God.
Shane Pinto, like as they said, they didn't need to go to slow motion replay because that puck was crawling over the goal line. Oh, and that's such a bad bounce for a player that I think has been, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think Shane Pinto has been fairly decent all year long.
Yeah, he's had his ups and downs in terms of like scoring ability. He's been very streaky on and off with that, but like very good all around defensive play. And it was just unlucky where I think it drifted just past his stick blade and then went off of his skate and in. And I mean, he wasn't in the best position because the puck did also get past Tavares before it got to Pinto. So Pinto was a little bit lucky that Tavares didn't already score it.
Yeah.
Pinto was in good position to block the pass getting to Matthews on the back door. But yeah, just unlucky. It's a frustrating play just because it's another power play goal for the Leafs. Again, power play, goaltending, and those face-offs, which we haven't mentioned yet, but the face-offs are absolutely brutal tonight. Well, I don't quite remember if that was one of the goals that came off of a face-off. Was
It
that
wasn't
like
directly like the final goal, but the play does start with the Leafs gaining possession early in the power play. And
mm-hmm.
so much of the modern game on the power play or the 3-on-3 is possession play. It's hard to battle and win a puck back, so if you can start with control in the offensive zone,
Mm-hmm.
it's
And it,
tough.
it sucks because I feel like the Sens were pretty much doing a good job of that overall in the last two games of in terms of puck possession and preventing the Leafs from getting really extended zone time in the offensive zone. But most of that happening when it's like a run of open play. Whenever it's off a face-off, they lose the face-off, and then it's just either quick goal or like a dominant shift for the Leafs. So it's it's frustrating to see like the 5-on-5 game plan going pretty much as good as you could expect it to, but then just those little moments, specifically always off of the face-offs and on the penalty kill that end up sinking the Sens.
So I won't claim a jinx because we all know the one true Calgary game over jinx is Audie James. But I will take a secondary role in this. I must have been the bad juju that brought the 37% face-off percentage for the Sens today. I'll wear that. But like you can't win an NHL game winning below 40% of the face-offs. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
pretty
I can't
simple.
believe I can't believe that it hasn't swung back like towards Ottawa's favor in any of these games. I think the Leafs have dominated the faceoff in all of the games, and like I knew that the Sens were really good at faceoffs, but I didn't know that the Leafs were second in the league in the regular season in faceoffs, with the Sens being fourth. So it is two of the best faceoff teams in the entire league going head to head. But oh my god, the Leafs coaching staff must have made it like a focal point to specifically like figure out all those face-off matchups and like here's how you beat this guy on the dot, here's how
Yeah.
you beat this guy on the dot specifically, and it's working perfectly. Like
And it's
because
funny because
you'd think
this
that the
is
teams are evenly matched with faceoffs, but it hasn't played out that way.
and this is a Leafs team that's using Calle Yarncroke, who was back when the Flames acquired him. Let's go back 4 years in the time machine. Was brought in as a face-off specialist, and he isn't even taking draws because his injuries don't allow him to. Is what I've heard. So this is a team like John Tavares went 71% in the dot today. Like that's a pretty obscene number. Bobby McMahon didn't take a draw today, so why am I bringing that up?
Did
Austin
anyone
Matthews,
get better than Tavares, or was he the best?
no, he was the best, but Matthews with 65%, Lawton at 61. Like the only guy who was below 50% who's took no, actually he only took how are you at 42.9% if you only took one faceoff, Max Domi?
Yeah, what the
NHL
hell?
stats. NHL stats. Please explain.
Oh god, yeah,
Um,
just killed on the face-off dot by all of their players too. And it's crazy because Claude Giroux, I think, specifically had the best face-off percentage in the regular season of all players, and even he's getting creamed on the dot. Like I don't even know how to explain that other than just the Leafs centers doing an amazing job of matching up against our guys
yeah,
on the
Claude
dot.
Giroux only 33% on the dot today.
That's shocking because I think he was like above 60% or close to it in the regular season. Oh my god.
I'm sorry, I'm not being the
Yeah,
positive
it's like
energy you maybe wanted.
no,
But
it's
hey,
okay.
Travis
We
Hamonic
gotta.
wasn't in the lineup.
What's that?
Travis Hamonic, not in the lineup.
Hey, yeah,
Tick
at
box.
least we didn't have to watch Travis Hamonic. If we get swept and he doesn't play in game 4, at least we didn't have to watch Travis Hamonic in a playoff game. That would be the one positive, you know? Because the longer the series goes, it could be like, oh, we lost the last game. Now we need a shake up on D. Let's get Hamonic in there. Let's get
We need some
Hammer.
physicality and a
Hmm.
guy who skates like he's walking in quicksand.
Exactly. So hopefully we don't have to do that. I think it would be ridiculous if Hamonic ended up in the lineup for game 4 because the third pairing, Clevin and Matapalo, has actually been great.
And like they're only
Possibly their
playing
best pairing on 5-on-5.
Mantapalo only played 12 minutes, Cleveland only 15.
To be honest,
Like
I'd like to see more ice time from them. I think they've been great in their limited minutes. I mean, maybe the limited minutes are part of the reason why they're doing well. Maybe they wouldn't be able to handle more, but I've been pretty happy with them, which is nice to say because often we're always as fans just like ragging on the bottom of the lineup players, right? Like cuz those are the places where you always look to improve like the easiest, right? It's like, "Oh, we have this crappy fourth liner, we have this crappy third pairing defenseman and it should be so easy to upgrade on this guy, you know?" So the fact that I'm actually happy with the team's third defensive pairing, I guess that's a positive. And especially Tyler Clevin, he's got a great future for this team. Like, I don't know, he does have Sanderson and Shabbat ahead of him, but I think him slotting in on that third defense pair is just perfect with that physical element. That reverse hit that he had on Steven Lorentz behind the Sens net, that's got to be like the one of the biggest hits I've seen all season. Like at first I thought it was Lorentz who was really initiating the contact, and it was, but Clevin like totally flipped it on him, and I'm surprised that Lorentz didn't have to go to the concussion spotter after that one. So love the element that Tyler Clevin brings. He was a bright spot tonight.
yeah, and I'm glad that the concussion spotters haven't played as big of a role in this series as the Zebras seem to
Yeah,
have wanted to insert themselves in. Like, I had his name on my lips, but I gotta open up scouting the refs here because like who was the official today? Because I heard it on. I started off listening to the radio broadcast as I was coming back from the mall here in
I have
Calgary.
no idea who they were. I'm the type of fan that just doesn't look at like who's reffing what game because
Oh,
I feel like I'll get too angry. Like if I go into a game and I'm like, "Oh, that guy's reffing," and I don't need that. I don't need that.
it was Francois Saint Laurent who has drawn the ire of Flames fans this year because he refed
Okay.
one of the games where Connor Zary got hurt this year.
I'm sure
He's
no call on Zeri getting hurt.
was against the Dallas Stars, so no, it was yep. But yeah, it's this has been the one series where I'm hearing from both sides that neither of them are happy with how this series has been officiated.
Yeah. It's it's been different from game to game, which is really funny, and especially when I watch other series as well, I'm like, okay, the standard of officiating is not consistent between different playoff series as well.
Yeah.
Um, but you know what? I think before we get into the discussion of the referees real quick,
Sure.
just going to give a quick ad read, which is if you're looking for ways to help an upstart media company employing over 30 young journalists and analysts across Canada, and if you have a few spare bucks kicking around, you can head to our Patreon page at patreon.com/the Game Over Network. There you'll find multiple tiers featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, looks behind the scenes, Discord benefits, merch discounts, and opportunities to give us feedback. And you can even join us for special shows live where you can interact with hosts as we launch more ways to improve your experience. If you're not able to spare a few dollars, we do also have a free tier available on the Patreon too. You can still get all of those perks. And if you really want to help us, make sure to click like and subscribe on YouTube, rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app, and share our work on your social media of choice. That's patreon.com/the Game Over Network for tantalizing goodies. Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to throw the ad read in quickly before talking about the referees is because there's a lot to say about that.
Yes.
Luckily, tonight, I don't think that it affected the outcome too much, as opposed to game 1, where you could make that argument. However, it was still the Sens making a lot of stupid penalties in game 1, like avoidable stuff that you knew it was going to get called, and they needed to be smarter. But in this game, the refs put the whistles away as it went on, and to be honest, I was happy with that because that's just what I expect from watching playoff hockey. But the amount of penalties in the first and second period compared to the third period having absolutely zero is really funny because I think both teams were just committing infractions left and right in that third period. And again, that is what I expect in playoff hockey, but then the decisions to make some of the calls that they did in the first two periods become kind of weird to me. Like, I don't get why they don't just call the whole game the same way. I think it was in the intermission before overtime on the Sportsnet panel, they were saying something like, oh, usually there will be like the penalty ratio in the playoffs, it will be like 80% of penalties happen in the first period, and then like goes down to like 30% of them in the, or whatever the numbers are. It was like 60%, 30%, and then like 10% into the third period, like as the game goes on. So the refs like to give power play opportunities early in the game, which is a little bit funny because sometimes they're not even necessarily warranted. But what, to be honest, what annoyed me the most tonight was the offsetting roughing minors that they kept giving out, because I feel like we want to see the toughness and the agitation and just the teams going at each other, and I didn't really see anything too egregious like on that Carlo versus Perron, the first penalties of the game. It was just like, it was really nothing. It was just a little net front battle, and they put them in the box right away. They make it 4-on-4. I don't really get the decision to do that. Tavares took down Tkachuk in front of the net. I would say that's a penalty, but again, it's one where Tavares was already there and Tkachuk kind of skated into the ice that Tavares was already occupying. So again, like, even if they didn't call that, I wouldn't have really had a problem. And then Tkachuk does get his elbow up on Pontus Holmberg, but that was one of the worst embellishments I've ever seen, where it hit him like right around here, and he does the whole throw the head back. So the referees got duped on that one. But then even worse to me is that after they get duped by that, then they decide to call Matthew Knies for cross-checking at the very end of the period, when there was about 3 different players, like from Sens and Leafs, all throwing cross-checks in the corner there, and they single out Matthew Knies for pretty much no reason other than I think they realized that they got duped by Holmberg, and they're like, let's do an even-up call, right? So I felt like that whole first period was just the refs trying to get themselves involved in the game, which is what we don't want. We don't want them to be this much of a storyline. And I feel like I shouldn't have this much to say about the refs. And if I do, which I do, then it's because they weren't very good. And it's not because they were biased against the Sens or anything like that. It was just, I felt like they were looking for calls early on.
And I think we have a couple friends that are coming from the other side of the Battle of Ontario who have some comments in chat about the officiating. But like, yeah, it drives me nuts too, because they said on the Sens radio broadcast about that evening up, oh, now they're setting a standard.
Yeah.
No, they weren't. Because if that was the standard, we'd probably have about 30 penalties called in this game.
Mm-hmm. Should have set that standard in Game 1 too. Game 1 was a parade to the power play, and they immediately changed that standard in Game 2, where I think the Sens only got called for 1 penalty in Game 2. So the consistency just doesn't make any sense.
No, and I expect that in between games because it is different crews. Like, you can't necessarily expect complete standardization when hockey is still or penalties especially are still a judgment call in the NHL. Like, even the judgment call with this player bite his lip to draw the blood off the high sticking that we've heard so many. Have you heard about this? Like, I went to a conference here in Alberta where there was a former linesman in Calgary who said he used to watch players as he's assessing them to see if it was a 4 or 2. He used to see players like chomping at their lip to try and dry blood.
Yep.
So
I remember, I think it was like 2015, Sens and Habs in the playoffs. Brendan Gallagher got high sticked, and he goes to the bench and he sits down and he's picking his nose. He's like, "Oh, where's the blood? Where's the blood?" and the referees skated over and waited for him to find some blood. Like, they stood there for like 30 seconds, and then he's like, "Oh, I found some," and then they called the 4-minute penalty. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but that's a weird standard that they have. Where sometimes they'll just give a bit of time for the blood to appear.
Yeah, I'm not saying they did that with the Batherton high stick at all. It's just a funny story that came to my mind talking about
Yeah,
how this judgmental.
the interesting quirks of
Yeah,
NHL refereeing. Um, we'll look at the chat again at the end of the show, but I do just want to question Matthew in the chat saying the refs were helping the Sens as best as they could without being too blatant. I would like to just politely ask which calls you think were bad, like in terms of helping the Sens tonight, because I do think like the Stützle one was the one that everyone was complaining about on Twitter, but that's a play to me where he did jump and it is a bit of embellishment. I would have been fine if it was, the offsetting penalties of a trip and embellishment. So I get that, but also when you look at that play from the camera angle that's kind of like straight on, like from the net looking out, Lorenz's leg is sticking way out to the left, and there's nothing else for Stützle to do other than either try to jump out of the way or take knee-on-knee contact. So if he doesn't jump out of the way, then it's a knee-on-knee hit, or a trip with even more obvious skate contact than what happened. So to me, that's one where I just see everyone going, "Oh, Stützle dove, Stützle dove." He kind of did, but also like what the hell was Lorenz expecting to happen in that situation of sticking his leg out like that? Like it's just that's what's gonna happen if you're gonna do that. So and you don't just deserve to get away with it just because the other player exaggerates a little bit. Like I don't know. That's what I'm thinking on that one.
We've got some other good comments that we'll probably touch on more in overtime in chat, but. Just to kind of touch on the refs finally, it's a thankless job. Like nobody becomes a ref to be everyone's favorite unless you become a lines person. I'm gonna shout out that former linesman because he's a family friend. Shout out to Mike Civic, the tallest lines person in the NHL.
Oh my god, how tall is he?
He was 6'7"
Oh
as
my
a
god,
lines person.
he should have been a goalie.
So funny story. I'll tell you a little bit about Mike Civic. He was actually a figure skater and was approached by the NHL because he knew how to skate.
Oh my god.
So that's how he.
That's funny. They're like, we need
person.
you. We need referees who can skate. That's funny.
Exactly, because can't just be all former AJHLers that are going into the officiating.
Mm-hmm.
I say that lovingly to all my AJHLers who are retiring or reach the end of their junior careers because their playoffs just ended. But yeah, it's not great when I have to go to scouting the refs because I think that this game was poorly officiated.
Yeah, when you need to investigate who is involved, it's like, oh no, this is getting out of hand a little bit. But I in the end, I'm glad that they put the whistles away as the game went on because again, a lot of the calls were borderline, and that's what frustrated me in game one as well, is that a lot of the calls were borderline, but they just kept calling everything on the Sens. And again, the Sens players should have smartened up and not given the refs anything to call, but again, consistency is all we ask for.
And just to to steal a line from Peter Klein to put a bow on this one, you don't know the names of the good refs. You know the names of the bad ones. We know Joe West because and Angel Hernandez. We don't know the good ones. So
that's a great point. We know Tim Peel, and it's not for good reasons. That's like the one ref that I can actually name off the top of my head, and that's before
Kerry Fraser. I'm a little bit older, so similar reasoning, but
yeah.
Let's head on to the next topic after an ad read.
That's enough about the refs for now, because it's not why the Sens are losing. Just wanted to speak my mind on it. It's obvious I'm not blaming the refs or anything like that. But yeah, if you're enjoying the show so far, you probably want more of this, right? Well, make sure you hit the like button on this video, click subscribe on our channel, and make sure that you check the notification bell so that you're alerted when we go live. And if you are a Leafs fan tuning into this to troll or to see the Sens fan being sad, go subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Tune into their show as well, because they're celebrating over there, and it looks like they are going to have more playoff games, more playoff rounds upcoming. So be sure to follow them as well. If you're listening to our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating or even write a positive review. If you really like us, make sure to follow us on your favorite social media platforms. You can find the Game Over Network on Blue Sky at thegameovernetwork.com, on TikTok and Twitter at Game Over NHL, on Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn, it is at Game Over Network. And if you want to follow any of the Game Over Ottawa people, We have all of our social medias linked in the description of every episode. And you can also find us at thegameovernumber.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter. You want to promote your socials at all, Conrad?
Sure, I'm just on Blue Sky these days. You can find me at conradkrauser.bsky.social. And if you're a fan and you're just here for pain and suffering, you want to see maximum pain and suffering, Game Over Flames, we're recording our post-mortem of just missing the playoffs tonight. So that video will be posted shortly. So if you want to see even more pain, not even making the playoffs level of pain, that'll be coming up soon.
Yes, go subscribe to Game Over Calgary. Check that out when it drops in the next couple of days here. Yeah, I feel like, obviously, you guys didn't get into the playoffs, but it's a little bit similar in that the Flames played so well down the stretch, and they won the number of games that they needed to, as long as another team lost a game, but they didn't
St.
get
Louis,
it, right?
Minnesota.
So the Flames played so good all the way until the end, and that's a little bit how I'm feeling now, with the Sens playing really good in these last two games, but then coming up empty. So
I'm running
depressing.
into a very motivated Toronto Maple Leaf squad.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Toronto has had more than enough chokes. And they already had, like, their worst choke was against the Habs, a direct rival. So they weren't going to let it happen again. They weren't going to let the Sens get a ridiculous upset on them. So
Yeah, hey, the Bruins didn't even make the playoffs. They didn't have their big bad boogeyman waiting.
They got to dodge. This is, I think I might have said this on a previous show, but this is the first time that the Leafs have, like, specifically, other than that Habs series, specifically been, like, clearly the favored team to win. Because all those other years against Boston, against Tampa, against Florida, all those
Coin
series,
flips.
yeah, coin flips, and even the one in the bubble against Columbus, it was like the Leafs were not that good that year. It was like the 8th seed versus the 9th seed in the play-in round or something like that. So props to the Leafs for being able to prove that they're the better team so far in this series, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like I said in our last regular season episode, that it was the Leafs should be winning, and as long as the Sens don't get swept, then I'll be happy.
You put the energy out into the universe, Maude. You
guess
made
so.
the mistake, the commentator curse.
I guess so. That's the problem, is they might get swept now, and I am starting to get angry.
But
at least, yeah.
Let's remember, there was a Canadian team down 3-0 in a certain series last year, and they almost got it all the way across the line.
That is true. That is true. We have seen that in recent memory, and I did mention the Leafs and Habs series. The Habs were down 3-1 in that one, so that's all we can really ask for at this point, is the Sens to make it interesting. If you can win Game 4 and Game 5 and force another home game in Ottawa, that would be great. Like, again, going into the series, like I was basically saying, if we win 2 games, lose in 6, I'll be happy. I'll be proud of the team. Going down 3-0 makes it sting a little bit more, to the point that, yeah, if we win a couple now, it's like, okay, you got a couple of wins, but you weren't going to make the comeback because it's so unlikely. But the fact that they were both really close overtime games that could have gone either team's way is honestly making me feel a little bit better about it. Like, I'm sure I'll probably log off after this podcast, and then I'll just start getting angry. I'll just, like, the overtime goal will start replaying in my head over and over. I'll be like, damn, we should have had it. But at least right now, I'm glad that I'm able to be, like, fairly calm about this. And I guess for our last topic tonight, we got to talk about Brady Tkachuk, because that's really the shining moment for the Sens tonight, is that clutch game-tying goal by Brady Tkachuk. Unfortunately, we're not able to turn that into a win tonight, but the fact that he got kind of injured again in this game, was clearly banged up, and to be honest, I think he was kind of playing banged up before tonight.
We all know it's from the Four Nations face-off. Like, he's been hurt
yeah,
since
when he smashed his hip into the post at the Four Nations face-off, it's just lingered since then. And it's funny because he missed a couple games after that. The Sens lost both those games, and then he came back and they won, I think it was 6 or 7 in a row, and he had like a 5-game goal streak or something like that. It's like, oh, he's back. But then he gets injured again, and then he gets injured again tonight, and it's like, okay, how much can one guy take? Like he's our warrior, he's our captain, he's our leader, but it's hard to see him just laboring out there and not at 100% because you know how much he cares, you know how big this is for him to be playing in the playoffs for the first time. So I am just really happy that he got to have his moment at least, even if this does end up being a sweep for the Leafs. He's got 2 goals in the series and a huge game-tying goal on home ice to get the crowd back into it when it looked pretty dire in that third period there with no shots on goal up to that point. You got to give huge props to Brady Tkachuk because it was a great moment. Unfortunately, it might get forgotten in Sens history in terms of the series not going their way and the game in overtime not going their way tonight too. But the fact that he willed himself to that goal, it was just great to see.
Yeah, and you got to say, like, there was a lot of time during this game where the Sens could almost feel them falling out of it
Mm-hmm.
mentally. So to have your captain and your leader be able to pick up those pieces and be able to will your team forward, that's something that I witnessed with the Calgary Flames over the last 3 weeks. Obviously, it wasn't our captain, Michael Backlund, but it was Nazem Kadri who
Yeah, he
did
was
that
on
for
the
the
heater.
Flames. Like, yeah, so the fact that you can rely upon the guy who's got the C on his chest, getting the big payday to try and avoid him going to free agency like a certain other team should have, no pointing fingers. But it's really great to see that for him. And because him and Timmy Stutz really have been there for this whole regeneration of the Sens. They're the two guys that I certainly think of as somebody who isn't watching every night when I see the return of the Senator head. Um, so to see him have that moment and to see Tim Stutzla really battle today, like that was to me as an outsider was a positive, even though, as you said, doesn't really help numb the pain from 2 close losses.
Yeah, it's I think it's a positive sign going forward that despite being injured, Brady Tkachuk has been able to get a couple of big goals for the team and continue to lead the charge. Like, here's a question I have for you with Matthew Tkachuk is not necessarily to like rub it in or anything, but when he went to Florida, he kind of instantly became like a playoff hero,
Yep.
and
Instead of
but
a playoff zero like he was in Calgary. Like he
yeah, this
was
is what I
that
was
was the
gonna ask
critique.
was I don't know his playoff stats from when he was in Calgary, but I seem to remember him doing like pretty much nothing. Is that
Yeah, it
correct?
was you're correct in saying that. Certainly was not a big playoff performer, was obviously on the line that eliminated Jake Ottinger and the Dallas Stars from playoff contention, got an assist on Johnny Gaudreau's series clinching goal, but he definitely kind of faded a little bit in the playoffs. But that has not been the case for Brady this year. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so that's a difference between the two brothers. There's so many things they do similarly. Like, as I want to say, they're both in that mold of Brad Marchand. They're both super pests with super skill. So it's good to see him get that moment, even if that is kind of the moment of the series, which, hey, at
Yeah,
least
and
there's a positive moment.
I think I think going forward, getting that goal specifically tonight is going to be huge for him, just because it's that taste of success, right? Like they've gotten here for the first time, and specifically that goal is like it had the chance to turn the tide in the series if we had ended up winning the game. It gave us the chance for that, right? Because if he doesn't score that, we might just lose in regulation, and then it's a little bit more depressing than it already is if we don't even get to like celebrate that one more goal. So, and I just think that it's great to see that even though he's injured, he's still battling and he's still able to produce, and he's making me proud. I'll say it that way. I'm proud to have him as captain of this team, even though this is not our year. We're getting beaten by a better team. He's helping us out. He's helping lead, and I'm happy.
And like, let's be real. Like, there's a lot of teams that would have packed up and folded it in, and a lot
Hmm.
of players, regardless of letters on their chest. So take your little sprinkling of sugar in with this
Yeah. I think the goal was a little funny to me too because I feel like Brady tried that exact same shot like 5 times earlier in the game. Like he kept getting the puck on that left wing side on the rush, kind of like top of the face-off circles, and none of the other attempts really got close. They were all like deflected up and out of play or an easy save for Stolars. So the fact that it finally worked was nice to see. Just a huge goal, top shelf. It was beautiful. So that's our happy moment for tonight. And I guess the other happy moment, Claude Giroux. We didn't really talk about his goal, but nice goal putting it through on the 5-on-3. And I guess it relates into Tkachuk too because Tkachuk's screen on Anthony Stolarz on that goal was absolutely perfect. That's how you need to play to beat this goalie. It's they've had trouble beating him cleanly on shots. The Tkachuk goal was the only one that they really just sniped past Stolarz with a clean shot where he had no screen or no deflection or anything like that. So Brady coming up huge in other ways too with that screen on the Giroux goal.
Yeah, let's head to chat. We'll I know we got some interesting characters in there, but we'll
I'm
head
just
to
checking in on it
overtime.
again. Sure thing. We got. Do we have some cleanup duty to do?
A little bit, I would suggest. I don't have mod powers in this chat, but let's go back to Do you want to do we have the merch ad read before?
Yes, we've got one more ad read to go.
Because we've got some pretty wonderful merch for this channel. Like
Yes,
I know yours is similar, but
you've
not
got some
quite
up
the
there.
same.
You've
Yeah.
got some examples there. Yeah, I'll put up the
I'll
slideshow.
close up the that side. It's Ottawa, right? It's
Yeah.
Game Over Ottawa.
We have the same merch but in Ottawa and for every market. So again, if you're a Leafs fan in here coming to talk shit in the chat, you can also go over to Game Over Toronto, support them, and get some merch to support them too. I'm gonna throw up the slideshow here too for some examples of Game Over Ottawa's merch. Just gotta get the ad read open. What better way to support something you love than by repping it on yourself? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique lines. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, if you want to make a statement with our established design, or if you want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee and another toque to prepare for next winter, as we're just finally exiting winter now here in Ontario, we've got you covered. Designed by Brady Tkachuk from Game Over Winnipeg, use the QR code on stream now and take a look through our apparel store. Help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. And yeah, like I said, whether you're a fan of the Sens or not, all the merch that you see on the screen, we have versions of those for every other Canadian team as well. So check that out.
Everyone is welcome. Everyone, no matter what their thoughts are.
Of course. With that, yeah, we'll take a look at chat, see who's stirring shit up and who is who's got some interesting thoughts. I'm gonna scroll back up to the top and see what else.
Here's one that I saw from Cryptic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. Put Levy in next game, and let's reverse sweep the Leafs.
Yes, you know what? I did see that one earlier. In terms of the goaltending, just because Levy was so good in his stretch earlier this season, and he continued to be really good for Belleville down the stretch too, even though Belleville was not a very good team. He kept them in the playoff race as long as he could. I would feel bad not having Ullmark starting just because you've given him that $8 million contract that starts next year. And it's like, yeah, you need that guy to be your starter, number one. But also, when you're down 3-0, it's like you gotta at least change something. And who knows? Levi has been able to steal you games before, so he might be able to do it again. So to be honest, if they did it, I would have no issues with it. I kind of welcome it because you might as well try something when you're down 3-0 and you haven't really been getting the saves that you need from Ullmark. Like, he's done well enough to give you a chance to win in the last 2 games, but then he's ultimately gotten beat on those overtime goals and ended up with a less than 900 save percentage, and you're not going to win with that in the playoffs. So I'd be pretty open to a goaltending change, and yeah, it would have to be Merolainen instead of Forsberg. I think, even though Forsberg is more of a veteran, you got to go with the kid of the future if you're going to switch it up, I think.
Yeah, we saw that in Calgary, giving the kid the reins a little bit more led to some success out here.
Yeah, and like
And
you would expect Marilainen to be the backup goalie for next year, I think. So why not? Why not give him a taste of playoff hockey and see what he can do? Because he was calm as can be and ice cold under pressure in all of his regular season starts. So I remember there was a what to be honest, one of his worst games where it was a 6-5 shootout win over the Bruins. He had given up 5 goals in that game, but in the shootout, he stopped all the shots and he stared down David Pastrnak after stopping him in the shootout. That kid has ice in his veins. He could give us steal a game in the playoffs. Who knows?
so maybe it is a chance to give him a little bit of running room.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna say something that I thought we'd mentioned, but Kay brought it up, and I was like, you know what? We didn't mention this. Sens Nation was great today. They were loud. I
Hmm.
love the Matthews Balding
I
chants that
couldn't
I
believe
heard.
that. That was so funny.
That was great. Cheering every hit that the Sens laid. Like, good on Sens Nation, because I know in some markets, if they're down 2-0, the fans don't come out. But truly, this is, as I said, the first game I think it was in 2,000 days that the Sens have been out of the playoffs. So welcome back to Sens Nation to playoff hockey. You really showed out, and something to be proud of as a fan base today.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really happy for the fans that got to experience this game. Glad that even though it ended up being a loss, they got to have the exciting feeling of playoff overtime and your team forcing overtime in the third period. Those are just the moments that you live for as a hockey fan. And I'm proud of the city for showing up. Like it's hard to tell just from on TV because I especially think that there was a lot of Leafs fans in the 100 section for sure in the lower bowl. But from what I was hearing and seeing from people online and people that I know that were at the game, up in the 300s and 200s is like all Sens fans for the most part. So to be honest, the ratio is probably something like 80-20 for Sens fans. And considering how it always goes in the regular season, I'm really proud of Sens fans for showing up and packing the building and not selling their tickets off to Leafs fans. I'm a little more worried for Game 4 now that now there's a 3-0 series lead for the Leafs that some people might sell them off, and then you'll probably see more Leafs fans next game. But hopefully all the Sens fans that have already bought their tickets for Game 4, hopefully they stick with the team and hopefully give them a good send off, either if they get eliminated in that game or if they go on to Game 5. It might be the last home game of the season, even if they win it. So yeah, super proud of the fan base for showing up and not letting the building being overrun by Leafs fans and being real loud and out chanting them. At the beginning of the game, I felt like there was a go Leafs go and go Sens go going at the exact same time that you couldn't really make out which one was kind of louder, which was really funny. They were kind of just, it was a mix. It was just like go
Yeah.
blah go. But for the rest of the game, the Sens fans really took over with the chants, and I think they provided great energy to the team on the ice. So that's our silver lining for the playoffs. We might not win any games in the playoffs, but at least we had fun in our home games, at least in the one that's happened so far.
And hey, fingers crossed to get 2 more.
Yeah, I hope so. Like we were saying with the other chat comment about the goaltending, about whether it's Olmark or Marilainen or for some reason Forsberg, whoever's in net, they're at this point I think they're going to need a goalie to steal a game. That's always what I've been saying heading into the series was we need the goaltending to be lights out to have a chance, and it hasn't been. So, but there's still the potential for that to happen. Olmark is a streaky goalie. He has had the games this season where he has completely stolen the win for the Sens. So if he remains in net, I hope he can at least steal one for us. If not, if it's another goalie, we're gonna need that to happen because they have not been generating too much offense and not a lot of pucks going past Anthony Stolar. So I think if the Sens are going to get a win in this series, it's going to be like grinding out a 2-1 or like 1-0 victory, which is how they were beating the Leafs for the most part in the regular season. Like I went to the one home game against the Leafs in the regular season. It was a 2-1 win. We won off a super fluky goal, but it was good goaltending and defense, and we had a shutout win in Toronto as well. So if you're going to beat the Leafs, you gotta shut them down and you gotta have your goaltending step up. It hasn't quite happened so far, but hopefully it can happen in Game 4 and we can get a little bit more Sens hockey.
So I'm going to change the wording on this a little bit because Matthew, as we've noted, is a Leafs fan that's in here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tweak this a little bit. Do you think Green tells the team, "Hey, maybe we feel this is out of reach for this year"? I don't think any coach in the NHL is going to say that. But you think he says, "Play for heart, play for pride," as much as anything, to try and encourage this team to build something for next game?
Yeah, you got to have the attitude of like just go out and win one for the home ice fans, I think. Like I don't think Green would outright say yeah, we're cooked. You got to just
I don't think any
just win one.
I think even if the Flames still had Daryl Sutter, I don't think he'd ever say that. So
I think what Travis Green will say is we have had plenty of winning streaks this season, 5 games plus, 6 games plus winning streaks. He'll just say, we've done it before, let's go on another winning streak. Obviously, easier said than done in the playoffs against a team that's just gotten 3 straight on you, and against one opponent. Way harder to win a bunch in a row against one opponent, but that's probably going to be the message from the coach to the locker room is that you've had win streaks this season, you can do it again. I keep calling back to what I was saying before the series started, but another one of the things that I was predicting was I didn't say which team. I said either the Sens or the Leafs would get a big series lead, either 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, and then blow it a little bit. Not necessarily lose the series, but have the other team come back just because the Sens are so streaky. And I was leaving the possibility as well for the Sens to get a series lead and then have the Leafs come back because the Sens are streaky. We're in the opposite situation where the Sens are the one in a hole, but they could pull off a win streak. You never know. So yeah, I just hope that Game 4 is fun. Hope that they can win one for the home ice fans.
So let's go with one last one from Game Over Montreal's K in chat. Who's going to be big in the room right now, considering the captain is new to the playoffs? Not meant as an insult, I promise. I think it kind of has to be the Ottawa hometown coming, as we mentioned, Claude Giroux. Like he's been in this scenario in similar scenarios before. He's one of the oldest players in the league, not derogatory either, but a real veteran presence that you have to hope can maybe calm down some of these younger guys who are probably going to be absolutely buzzing, and that can sometimes be a negative.
Yeah, and he really stepped up tonight. It's again him and Tkachuk being the shining performances, producing the only offense for the Sens tonight. So Giroux leading by example in a game that this team really needed to have. He put it all out there, and yeah, in the locker room he's got to be that quiet leader that he usually is. I don't think he's one of the more vocal rah leaders. This might be a time where you need that. So I don't know. Hopefully Brady can bring that and get this team to win just one more game. We just want one more win before we say goodbye for the season, I think.
All right. Thank you to all of you who have come here in good faith, come in with banter rather than some of the other comments we've seen. But thanks to everyone for allowing me to come on to this Ottawa show and try and be as supportive as I can be, Maude.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Conrad. If I was doing this show myself, I don't think I would have been able to collect my thoughts at all to even have a cohesive 4-period structure that we usually do on the show with the segments. I think I would have been a mess. I would have been probably yelling a bit and swearing a little bit more, even though I feel like I was more calm than I expected to be after the game ended. But thank you for helping me out tonight. We are going to be back, Game Over Ottawa, for Game 4 on Saturday. Hopefully not the last one of the season, but who knows. Damien will have that live stream for you on Saturday, so look forward to that. And again, if you're a Leafs fan coming in here to troll, check out Game Over Toronto as well. You can go celebrate with them and still support the Game Over Network over on the Toronto channel. You don't need to just come here and diss us after we lose. You can go spread some positivity over to Game Over Toronto as well. But yeah, that'll do it for tonight. Thank you everyone so much for watching or listening. Have a good one.